Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, watch collectors, watch nerds, idiots, savants, thank you so much for joining me. I am going to just hang out here a little while, waiting for fellas to come on into the room so that I've got people to talk to. If you are watching this live stream loaded up on YouTube later, in other words, you're not watching it live, then you can just kind of like scrub the action ahead by about 5 minutes, and then we will actually be talking about watches at that point. But in the meantime, I'm going to be welcoming the punters who will be pouring into the room and explain why I am rebel streaming right here, right now, after having gone on the Archie luxury show for approximately 30 seconds, and probably, please, dear God, the last 30 seconds of my life. But first, let me say hello to the 25 or 30 of you who have already poured in here. Valen Greymoon, First Fist, Joe Money, Fecond, UMQ, we love you, David B, third. And then, of course, we've got the Inland Watch Reviews watching from Washington, D.C. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming along. Look at all of you guys in here already. I'm not alone. I got a two-tone watch from the AD. Alex V, which one? Let's talk about that. Let me tell me what you got. Thurston Howell III, were you more of a Marianne guy or were you more of a Ginger guy? I myself was more of a Professor guy. Arto Charles, thank you for the hello. So, okay, well, let me just catch you up a little bit to speed and why I am rebel streaming, at the current exact moment. So Archie sends me the link every night, and I just don't have time, to join the Archie luxury. What would we call it? The Archie luxury cesspool, that mess every night. Honestly, my old enemy, Bear Clooney, is probably the highlight of that show. I don't fully understand it, but when Bear isn't there, it's dreadful because Archie can't carry his own weight anymore. He has become like a whale, like a sperm whale, but out of water. The sperm whale is very heavy, weighs 1,000 tons, and it can only function, because it lives in water, which gives it some buoyancy. But Archie has become fatter and stupider than his own audience can really support. So he depends upon the kindness of people like Bear and Tim, and a bunch of other guys. Honestly, the vast majority of people who go on Archie are there to just carry his weight so he doesn't have to do it. Like him or not, Bear's got an opinion and a collection, and he's got a collecting ethos, and he's got something to say about watches. So he and I may have been off to a rocky start for a long time. And now that I'm declaring myself persona non grata on the Fatso Luxury Show, we may return to our uneasy alliance may be over. But I will say that I think Bear Clooney is really about the only thing decent on that show. Now, Ed, seems to think otherwise. But honestly, he's the only one with a semi-intelligent opinion over there. Dumpster fire is what we're talking about. So I'll tell you in a minute what happened. Robert wants to know if no Negroni tonight. I already consumed it. Now, I'm a fairly lightweight kind of a drinker. So, and I don't really know what's up with that. I'm not like, a drinker, but I like my sort of cocktail every night or most nights to just kind of like come down from the workday. So I can't really say that, I don't usually even have two. So guys, throw up your discussion, your questions, your comments about watches, particularly Rolex. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my day. We'll start with Archie, and then we'll move on to things that are actually important, unlike that. So first of all, quick fist watch check. Yes, I'm wearing the OP41 Tiffany. And if you had listened to me, you would have bought this last November for $18,000. Things went crazy with this watch for reasons that you all know about, and we won't, get into. including the fact that it was discontinued. And at one point it rocketed up to around $50,000, which was unsustainable and crazy. I think it's down to around 30 right now, 30, 32. That's an awful lot more than the 17, 18 that I paid for it. And I advise you guys to buy it when you could. Anyway, I went on to Archie. He sends me the link every night asking me to come on. So tonight I finally had time and I went on. I flashed this watch, not as a flex, but more or less as a, as a quick fist watch check. I feel like, thought it brings honor to the tribe, brings glory to Archie if I appear on Archie, and people have good watches on Archie. And other than Bear, well, not everybody has decent watches. Marcello's got a couple of good ones, but a lot of those guys just don't, right? Anyway, well, this just set Archie off on a rant because the night that he got his Breguet, his second rate, not a Rolex, was the night I flashed this watch. And then everybody was all a Twitter and agog, and that was quite a while ago. But it stole his thunder, and nobody was really interested in his crappy Breguet, because I came on there with the Tiffany blue. I mean, look at that watch. I mean, really, honestly. I mean, not that the Breguet is crappy, but it ain't no Tiffany blue Rolex either, right? It's sort of like getting, a Breitling. It's nice, but anyway, so I came on Archie tonight. And he just immediately was mad and started yelling at me, and I'm so grateful, Paul, that happened. That you are in the manic, the depressive phase of your manic depression. I'm so grateful for that, because years ago I was an Archie addict. I couldn't help myself but go on that show, and I felt myself slipping off the wagon. And with sometimes when there was nothing better to do, I found myself going on that show, and I just felt like a heroin addict who had been offered a hit and took it to just see what was the fascination. And then, before you know it, I was out on the streets buying H, and I just really needed to get out. I needed Archie rehab. He's not good for me. He's not good for you. He's not even good for himself. He's not good for his children. Archie is really good for nothing, honestly, to be quite frank about it. I mean, listen, on a day that you feel like drinking out of a brown paper bag and eating, 7-Eleven, a 7-Eleven breakfast burrito, there's Archie. That's kind of what he is. But anyway, I was glad to just get out of it. Okay. So I think I'm done. I think I'm done over there, and that kind of makes me happy. Makes me feel a little bit better. Okay. So what's going on in my life besides watches? Well, guys, I'm a dog trainer, as it says down below. World's greatest dog trainer. I write books. Oh man, I just got. I don't have it handy in front of me, but this is my most recent book. Yeah, and I don't have it handy, but this just came out in a new edition in paperback by the same name, but it's newly edited edition that came out. So I'm like thrilled about that. People buying the new edition, and I'm writing a third book, which is I got to finish it in about the next 30 days. So that has had me super occupied. I can't really tell you what's going on with with the title and the topic of that book, because you got to sign an NDA. When you write these things and when they pay you, but soon enough it'll be out and we'll be able to talk about it more. But so it'll be my third book. Although it's due in 30 days, and that has been keeping me very, very busy. Of the 14 chapters, I've got 10 of them done. So I'm getting really close. So that's that's made me super happy. Dog training client came today, a lady and her daughter. And as soon as that lady got out of the car, of course, I'm talking to the dog and to her, but I said, ma'am, you're wearing a Milgauss, aren't you? And she said, I can't believe that's a Milgauss. How do you know what this even is? And I was like, well, we got to talk. So that started a very happy conversation. And her daughter was like, and you're wearing the Tiffany blue. And I was like, wow, how do you know that? Because the daughter is only 16 years old. But the whole family is a bunch of watch nuts. So that was really nice, to chit chat with them and talk watches. So we dealt with the dog, but then of course I ran and got a whole bunch of watches to talk about. Okay, guys, in just a minute, I am going to start picking through your comments. to answer questions and discuss comments with you. But I'm going to take my leave of you for just one quick moment while I get something to drink for this, parched throat here. Don't leave. I'll be right back. You'll be able to hear me from across the room. Just grabbing a water, guys. Don't go anywhere. Coming. Be right back. Okay, here I come. Here I come. Okay, fellas. Well, I'm showing you the OP41 in Tiffany, but the funny thing is that I don't know about you, but I have a rotation problem. And by rotation problem, I mean I'm a serial rotator. So let's talk about this. Tell me in the comments, and I'll work my way down to you guys. How many times do you change watches in a day? Because I'll tell you what, I wake up in the middle of the night to pee, and I change watches. Or I click them, with the UV charger. So today, I'm right now wearing this OP41 in Tiffany, but I have worn today the Great White, the Omega Seamaster White. I wore a what did I wear? I wore a Seiko Tuna. I wore an Islander watch. I wore a Seiko SKX replacement, the Sports 5. And I can't remember what else. What is that for? I must have worn 5 watches today. There's something terribly wrong with me. How many watches have you worn today? Okay. So, Alex, I'm going to look for you later in the comments. This is early in the comments, some of the first ones. I'd like to know what you got in two-tone from the AD. I think my favorite two-tone from the AD right now is the root beer GMT. But the bluesy is awful nice too. And here's Alex. He got the blue sub, so the bluesy, and the 43 millimeter Sea Dweller. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. That is. I have the steel 43 50th anniversary, but man, in two-tone that has to be even crazy heavier. But congratulations, it's a super bash you right between the eyes kind of a face. So, okay. Alex would like my opinion on TPG and his scams. I don't know what you mean by scams. I think you mean TGV. We're using code here, and I don't love his channel. I find him a bit smarmy. But I do appreciate the fact that he covers watches from sort of like all the different price ranges, which I think is interesting because I do love a $300 dive watch. I can't help it. I do. So I don't know about his scams. My AD, says Dustin Baker, got me a solid gold sub, a two-tone black sub in a month. Wow, that's a pretty good haul in a month. And just sent me the Falcon Eye Yachtmaster. Is Rolex catching up with demand? Well, first off, I don't actually know what the Falcon Eye Yachtmaster is. I assume that's the big gold one. Listen, solid gold subs traditionally used to sit on the shelf. They didn't sell well. And generally speaking, almost all of the precious metal Rolex would get you a discount, anywhere between 5 and maybe even 13%. But that's not so true anymore. Gold is selling, or has been. So is Rolex catching up with demand? Because you got 3 in a month or so. Boy, no, I don't think Rolex is so much catching up with demand. Maybe a little to a certain extent, but I don't think that's the whole story here. So first of all, if they're catching up with demand a little bit, I bet you it's not a matter of increased production. I think demand is probably slightly decreased right now for a few reasons. China is having some banking issues and some crises in confidence economically. So that's one thing. And then the crash of Bitcoin and the correction in the stock market have evaporated a certain amount of wealth. And I think that concerns, listen, rich people feel rich when their 401k is like off the charts because the S&P 500 and the Dow Jones is off the hook. When those things dip, when their Bitcoin, goes from 40,000 to 23,000, they just don't feel wealthy, these guys. So they don't spend as much money. And I think that has slowed down the demand for Rolex, number one. And then number two, I think the other thing that happens is used watches from some of these people who were, Bitcoin millionaires. Used watches have flooded the market, which has brought down the price of the used stuff. So I think what we're seeing here is a little bit of a correction, slightly repressed demand, but I don't think Rolex has geared up with a whole lot more production. Okay, I've been waiting for the Sprite ever since it first came out, and my AD says they'll get me one, but we just don't know when. So I think your AD really likes you, and that's a good thing. And the watches that they're giving you are, although they're very good watches, because Rolex doesn't make a bad watch, they're not the super high demand stuff either. It's not the Blue Sky Dweller or the Daytona, Panda Daytona, and so forth. You're getting very good watches, but they're not at the very, very peak of the pyramid of difficult watches to get, which are sort of Daytona's first and GMT second. So I think that's part of what's going on. But nonetheless, enjoy those watches, and it's great that your AD is taking such good care of you. Thurston Howell III, who is a Marianne kind of a guy, said that he bought an OP. Oh, you bought it today, an OP41 navy blue. Brand new for a small premium to retail. Thoughts? So, first of all, it's not called navy blue. It's called bright blue, which is funny because this is kind of like a bright robin's egg, Tiffany sort of a blue, turquoise. I have that watch also. Okay, the one that you're referring to. It is a much darker blue, but this is a flat kind of a blue. All the Stella dials like this in the OP41 are flat. What you got is a sunray blue, and my thoughts, it's gorgeous, gorgeous. Now, I don't know how much of a premium to retail. Retail is around $6,000 on that watch, and I'm seeing they've come down from about 12 to about 10. So I would say if you got it for anywhere under 10, if you got it for 7 or 8, I think you did great. And this is one of the most classic watches that Rolex makes. In fact, I think this is the OP line, the Oyster Perpetual, I think is the very first watch that Rolex ever made. The bubble backs were all OPs. So I think they're just, utterly classic. In this year's refresh, they've made them far more interesting. I mean, they say they're 41, but they're really 39 right from edge to edge. But what they did was they just made the dial so much bigger that they kind of wear like a 41 because the dial is huge, but the dimensions are not. So my thoughts, fabulous watches, fantastic watches. And also I think in the day and age when, when you get knocked over the head for a sub, the OP is especially the bright, what they call the bright blue, which is really a dark sunray blue. OP41, I think it's kind of under the radar. So it's stealthy and I like it. I love the OP41 also. Can't stand to watch Archie's channel, Archie's watch channel. It's not a watch channel. It's a soap opera. I mean, it's a hot mess. But it is what it is. Archie's been around a long time. He's not going anywhere because people give him money. So he will show up as long as there is blood in the water. Valen Graymoon is wearing the Boulevard Lunar Pilot on the wrist today. And Q says, I'd love your opinion on the yellow gold day date. Do you think the gray market prices will go back low to what they were? Well, first off, I love a day date. I mean, wow. I'd love the day date. And someday, maybe I'll be old enough to get one. I'm certain I'm old enough now. So the day-date in Rolex, it's only made in precious metal. And those metals are yellow gold, rose gold, white gold, and platinum. Now, I have tried on all of them. The platinum, by the way, is stupendously heavy, ridiculously, unusually, weirdly heavy. I mean, we live on Earth. We're used to the gravitational pull, with which we live. We're used to the physics of our world since birth, right? So you see an object, and when you pick it up, your mind is gauging how much force you need to use in order to pick it up based on your projection of what its weight is going to be. And that happens seamlessly somewhere in the hypothalamus, I suspect. But when you go to pick up the platinum day-date, something happens, and you realize the laws of physics have been suspended. It's weirdly heavy, unexpectedly weirdly heavy. But back to your question. What do I think of it? I mean, it's like the classic. The yellow gold day-date was the first day-date, I'm sure. And it's absolutely classic watch. Now, prices. You're asking if the prices are going to go back to what they were. They're back to what they were now. Okay. The gold day-dates used to sell. They would sit on the shelf because they're crazy expensive, $45,000, and they would sit on the shelf at the Rolex AD. And if you expressed interest in one, listen, guys, it's only a few years ago, you could count on getting like a 7, 8, 9, 10% discount on one of those watches. And in the recent last few years, those discounts have disappeared. And then they began selling at a premium on the used market. But that premium right now is much, much lower than what it was. So you can get those watches, the yellow gold day-date, on the secondary market for a very small premium over retail. And so the answer to your question is they've already gone back down to where they're going to go. I don't think they're going to go lower. If you're trying to time the market, stop. If you're in the market for that watch, I think this is the buying time right now. Ed, referring, I'm pretty sure, to the blue dial, the Tiffany blue or the turquoise blue. Beautiful. I agree. I love this thing. Rusty Trombone says, I'm hoping to get the 31 millimeter OP Tiffany for my wife for our 44th anniversary in October. Yeah, they still make it in 36, and I don't remember what else. They're all of them super hard to get right now. Well, I don't mean right now, just period. They're really hard to get, any of the turquoise, because once they discontinued the 41, people became certain that they would discontinue all the other sizes, and they started buying them. Number one. Number two, the ADs see very, very few of these. So I believe that most of the ADs who get one of these in 36 and smaller are actually buying them for their wife. And so, Rusty, I would be looking on the secondary market. I don't think you're going to find one in an AD, to be honest with you. I don't think you're going to find it. Let's see, who else? Alex needs help with his dog. Right there, Alex. Everything I know about dogs, right there, except for what's going into my new book, which will be out soon. Abba's Rolex says, hello, I had a question. Been to 6 Rolex somethings, ADs, I guess, jewelers. In Germany, Switzerland, Austria, Italy, all of them say the same thing, that something dramatic will happen after the new year. What will happen? Oh my God, after the new year, nothing's going to happen. All of them said something dramatic will happen after the new year. What will happen? I mean, listen, guys, Rolex tends to ramp up shipping, not necessarily production, but shipping in the fall prior to Christmas, because they like it if their ADs can kind of start whittling down their waiting lists for Christmas. So I haven't heard that anything exciting is going to happen after New Year's, so I don't think it will. But I I do think that Rolex holds back and builds up a little bit of extra inventory, and they start shipping that inventory out September, October, so that the ADs who have all these sales that they would like to make for Christmas but can't because they don't have inventory, so they can make more of those. I mean, remember something, guys. I am not a Rolex customer. You are not a Rolex customer unless you own, operate, or manage an authorized dealer, AD. I'm a customer of my AD, as are you. And your AD is the customer of Rolex. So is something going to happen after New Year's? I don't think so. But traditionally, inventory builds and gets a little better soon. So here we are in August. I would start touching base with my AD if I were you guys in the next couple weeks. Mark, what's your opinion on Cesar Milan, who is the dog whisperer? Give me 1 second and I'll show you something. Give me a second, fellas. Hang on, going through my phone. Deedle. That's me and the man. Now, you could tell that's a few years ago because I'm skinny, but so was he. So that's Cesar Milan, the dog whisperer, whispering the secrets of dog whisperingness to me. So good guy and very knowledgeable guy. Lee Nolan, glad to see you back. Thank you, Lee. Dustin Baker, my AD got me a solid gold sub, a two-tone black sub in a month. Oh, yeah, I think we did that one. But good for you. I have a solid gold sub too. It's an impression piece. That it is. Mark, what's your favorite Tutor? Been waiting to get the Pelagos FX-D since it released, but impossible to get them in Australia. Not so easy here either. But to be honest with you, I haven't seen it in the flesh, but I don't like it. First off, I'm not a big fan of single pass NATO type straps or any kind of NATO strap. And that Pelagos FXD, it's got fixed lugs, and so you're gonna wear it with a single pass, NATO. Period. End of story. That's it. And I don't like them. Mind you, I have a Marathon Aviator. No, not an Aviator. A Marathon Navigator, I think it's called. It's a pilot's watch. It's like cheap. It's $300. And pretty cool watch, and it's got fixed lugs. So on a $300 watch, I don't mind a single pass, NATO or silicon. I don't mind it, but I don't like it. I want bracelets, which is why I much prefer my Tutor Pelagos, which has the titanium bracelet and the adjustable clasp. So that's the way to go. I mean, there's only one good thing about that FXD. There's only one good thing about it when you compare it to the actual Tutor Pelagos. And that only good thing is it's thinner. The Tutor Pelagos, the proper Pelagos, it's kind of chunky. I don't remember, but I would say it's probably close to 15 millimeters, I think. So it's kind of chubby. It's kind of tall. But it's titanium, so it's light. I mean, it's because it's a big watch. It's substantial enough that you don't feel like you're holding, plastic in your hands. It doesn't feel like a plastic G-Shock. But it's not weighty. It's not too beefy, meaty because of its, build material. And it has a date, which the FXD doesn't. So basically, I hate that FXD. Oh, and it's got a bidirectional bezel. What kind of bullshit is that? It's garbage. Crumply Cowboy only rotates once per week. Well, I was saying I rotate like once per hour sometimes. So I hate you. I wish I could do that, but sadly I can't. Anthony is going to be hunting watches in Sydney, Adelaide, and Melbourne next month. Well, good luck to you there. I think inventory is kind of low all over the world. AJ Bones wore 7 watches today, one for every day of the week, matching what I'm wearing. Wow. Or maybe that's what you do in a week. You just rotate one a day. Man, I think that's a great system. I just Can't do it. I get bored very easily and quickly. It's a problem. I'll be honest with you. Do you foresee the Datejust 41 able to sell at an inflated price going into the near future? I mean, why are you even worrying about this? What? Who cares? Let's just say, I hope not. And I'll tell you why I say that. Look, when I buy a nice watch, all I really want to know is if I have to liquidate, if the roof blows off, and I have a bunch of God forbids, and I need my money back, can I get my money out of it with either a minimal loss or some kind of a gain? But all these carpetbaggers who came into Rolex only because it got hot, well, I'm glad they're leaving the hobby, because they were never hobbyists. They were profiteers. So, listen, the Datejust has long been one of the sort of the favored, watches, one of the most famous watches that Rolex makes. But I repeat, they don't make anything bad. So if you're asking me because you want to buy one to sell it, I wouldn't do that. I think you'll have to hold on to it for a very long time before you're going to make, a big profit. If you're asking me because you want to buy one and just be sure that, you're not going to lose your shorts, well, then go ahead and do it. You're safe. But I don't like this question. Q, if you had one watch to choose from, would you choose the green OP or the Batman? Not considering the price difference. Well, here's the funny thing. I have the green OP 41 right now. I do have it. I have 3 of these things. They're like peanuts. Once you start buying them, you can't stop. So I have this one, all in 41. I have this one. I have that bright blue, which is the sunburst blue that I told you about, and I have the green one. And I had the Batman. I don't have the Batman, but I did have the original Batman. I sold it off. So if I could have one, which one would it be? Well, this is, look, I'll tell you what. The Batman, it's more watch. Okay, forget about the price. Let's just talk about the size of the watch, the construction of the watch. It's a meatier, beefier. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love this OP41. And in some ways, it's the perfect simple watch. But the Batman is a GMT. It's very hard to get a GMT right now and has been for some years. Has that extra function, has the turning bezel. The Batman, not this iteration, but at least the original iteration of it was the very first watch where Rolex combined 2 colors in one ceramic bezel. So I don't really think they're comparable. The OP, the Oyster Perpetual, it's the entry level to Rolex, it's the entry level luxury, and GMT after Daytona is the hardest to get Rolex, and it has 2 complications, 3 really in a way, but for sure it's got 2 complications that this doesn't have. Complication number 1 has a date, no date on the OP41. It has the second time zone in the form of the GMT hand, and then it's got the rotatable bezel, and that rotatable bezel in 2 colors. So yeah, the Batman, that'd be the one. What are your thoughts on the solid gold day date compared to the solid gold subs? Now that's interesting, that question to me, because I consider this all of the time. I've got the solid gold sub, and I constantly think about a solid gold day date, although I think about the white one, the white gold one, more than anything else in the day date, because yellow gold, even rose gold, especially yellow gold though, man, it's loud. And as you know, they don't make the gold sub in rose gold. It's yellow gold. It's loud. It's very loud. Okay. It's very visually stunning, but it pretty well screams, I'm expensive. Whereas I feel like the white gold one, either sub or day date, is a little bit more stealth wealth. So each of those watches has something that I dearly love. And so it's going to come down to personal taste. But the sub has that rotatable timing bezel, which absolutely fascinates me. You know, the sound of it, the fidget spinner nature of it, the fact that you can time little things with it. I mean, mind you, if you have a solid gold sub, you probably have a secretary, and you could just tell him or her, you know, to tell you when the pizza's done. But there's just something fascinating about that turning bezel, and that's the huge advantage of the solid gold sub. But the day date has the day. They both have the date, but the day date has the day across the top, curved, written out fully. Oh my God, that's beautiful. The sub has a limit to the number of kinds of dials that it has. I mean, in gold, your choices are black or sunray blue. But in the dial combinations on the gold day dates are endless. You know, there's precious metal indices, and I mean, it's just endless. So I think if you're a real sporty guy, it's the sub. And if you're a little bit more formal, it's the day date. That's, I think, the only way you can decide it, right? Like if you wear a suit if you wear a suit only to weddings and funerals, then get the sub. If you wear nice clothes for work, then I think it's the day date. That's just me. And that's why I don't have a day date, at least not yet. Tom for watches thinks that fewer watches will be going to China and we'll see more stock in the West unless people are buying right now in general. Yeah, I agree with that. And I was talking about exactly that. This got to do with current economic conditions. Mark, what is your thought on the Pelagos LHD, and do you think it will be discontinued soon? That's the left-hand drive Pelagos. Oddly, that was considered really super cool and collectible when it first came out, but this is kind of the way Tutor works. Man, I will answer your question, Lyndon, but let me knock that out of the way. No, I don't think it's going to be discontinued anytime soon. What do I think of it? I don't think much of it. And by that, I don't mean that I dislike it, but I think that when they premiered that watch, Tutor was pursuing a different marketing strategy than what they're doing now. It seems to me that now Tutor and Rolex have put their little heads together. And here's what's happening. Rolex is trying to become Rolex has always been exclusive, okay? But they're now going for a step above exclusive into the super rare, super exclusive category, like Patek. I mean, you always had to, the AD for Patek always had to know who you were, to make sure that you were like a Patek type person before they were going to sell you one. Are you Patek material? And you had to basically go in there and date them and date the AD for a Patek. And that's what's happening with Rolex. Tutor, which was always sort of like Omega, just go in and buy one. Which one do you want? We got 3 in every color. Tutor is now emulating the Rolex, the old Rolex model, not the new, not the super exclusives, but the exclusive. So Tutor is moving up, from like Oris into Rolex category, and Rolex moving up into Patek category, and it's really irritating. And when I say irritating, I mean because if you're a collector, you want access, and the access is getting very difficult. Clyde Anderson, your favorite rancher and mine, sold me, and I'm awful glad he did. He sold me his Tutor Panda chronograph. And before I agreed to buy it from him, I called my AD who sells Rolex and Tutor and who likes me. Thank you to James and Sons. And I called them and I said, hey, what are my chances of getting a Tutor Panda out of you? Because I got, and they were like, look, we'll put you on the list. We'll put you on the list. But we got 5 or 6 guys ahead of you, and we haven't seen one in 6 months. And that's not their fault. That has to do with shipping and inventory and production and distribution. So the model that Tutor used to use has changed. And what they used to do was they would come out with a hot new watch, like the left-hand drive. And they would pretend that it was going to be exclusive, difficult to get. And they would only put right away, they'd put a few out into the market to get people talking, but then they would slow down. And this is what they did, by the way, with the Black Bay. They did the same thing, put out a few like the blue one, and then they slow down. And then everybody was like, there was a lot of pent up desire because I see them on Instagram, but I can't get one. And so everybody goes on the wait list. And then the next thing you know, Tutor says, okay, here we go, and they open the floodgates, and what they used to do was then flood the market. So they created a false sense of exclusivity. That's changing now. And what they're doing is they are dribbling them out slowly, carefully, cautiously, and they're maintaining that exclusive. So they're just Tutor is hope I'm being clear, guys. Tutor is stepping up into exclusive Rolex category or territory with controlled inventory and production. And Rolex is just stepping up into Patek level. Now, why would they do that? Well, I think that's pretty clearly it's an economic issue, right? You get more money per unit, so it's just it's more lucrative for them. It's not good for the collector. It just makes it much harder for us to get watches. But that's what I think is happening. Inland watch reviews. On the weekends, I wear my Oyster Perpetual Blue Dial, 34 millimeter when traveling. It's between my Hammy 42 Blue Dial. Well, that's interesting to me that you are rotating between a 34 millimeter and a 42 millimeter. That is a huge difference, Inland. And thank you for joining us today. I change watches twice a day, says Inland. The OP34 is for weekends. Twice a day. Well, I feel like that is an exercise in self-control. I'm glad you could do that. I myself seem unable to manage that. Guys, we're at like 150 people in this stream. Thank you so much for joining me, all of you. Oh man, look at Ed bragging. 1 watch per day unless I go out in the evening. Well, I wish I could. I wish I could, but I have a problem. I wear 5, 6 of them a day. How many Seikos do you own? I probably have 30. Oh, I feel much better about you right now, Ed, because I don't have nearly 30. I always thought I had too many, My favorite brand, no real luxury watches, though, just jewelry for me. Okay, so I actually own no jewelry. And Seikos, listen, I'm going to make a quick guess, 5, maybe 6. That's it. When I say that's it, isn't that a lot? I think that's too many. But I have 5 or 6 Seikos. And I really super like them. I have Seiko Turtles. I've got a Seiko Tuna. I have a Sports 5. And I really like them. They're excellent tool watches. They're so functional. A lot of them have the day and the date, which, I love that feature. But there comes a point where I want to rip them off of my wrist and put on a luxury watch, whether it's Rolex or Omega or Breitling, and typically it's going to be Rolex or Omega because none of my Breitlings are too shishi. And when I put on a Rolex or Omega after a Seiko, I feel the difference. Guys, it's like they feel better. The bracelets don't pinch, they don't rattle. There's no hot spots. So yeah, I love them. You can't wear them all the time. Random Rob. Oh, thank you so much for joining us today. The Random Rob Borealis is what Rob is wearing. And actually, that's a micro brand that I really like. I really like the Borealis. I had their Scout Sniper early on. It was the first watch I ever owned that had tritium tubes. And when it was time to move it along, they had discontinued it already. And I sold the Borealis for like $100 more than I paid for it, which was amazing. But thanks for joining us, Rob. I'm so glad you're here. We're talking about the Platinum Day Date here. And Q says it's unusually heavy, but we love Deep Sea Dweller, so it's right up our alley. It's heavier than the Deep Sea Dweller, and it's more focused, more concentrated into a smaller space. So it definitely feels different. I've got 2 versions of the Sea Dweller. I've got the Sea Dweller and then the Deep Sea, which is what you're referring to here. And I like it. And once in a while, I'll put it on and wear it for a few days in a row, especially if I'm traveling. I'll just put it on, take only it, and that way I know I can't rotate. But eventually I realized, damn, the thing is like insanely heavy, and it's tall. It's like 17, 18 millimeters. The Tutor Black Bay 41 Black Bezel. It is a big watch. I have one also. I have the burgundy of that. I have the ETA version. And it is a big watch, but it's not big. It's a little bit tall. Wow, we got a super chat. Thank you, Thurston Howell III, for not $10. Would you buy the OP41, the watch you're wearing right now, in unworn condition for $25 today, assuming you didn't have one already? Of course, thanks in advance. Yeah, I would. I mean, I'd be a little happier buying it at 23, 24, but that's probably not even realistic. Yes, I would. If you try and time the market, I've heard the saying, it's like trying to catch a falling knife. You might get hurt. So what I would say is, first off, guys, am I trying to say this is a $25,000 watch? I am not. For that kind of money, I really rather have a Daytona, which you can do. There is one or two or three different reference numbers of Daytonas that you can get for that money, and I think it's a better watch for that money. But the heart wants what the heart wants, and if your heart is bound and determined to get one of these, I think we're going to turn around in 10 years and they're going to be a lot more than 25. So if you're speculating and you want to buy, hold a little while and sell, then no, don't do it. You could get hurt. If it's what your heart desired and you are going to hold on to it and you're not thinking about selling it unless and until you age out of this hobby, then yeah, I think it would be a good buy. I do. Thanks for that super chat. Thoughts on the No Time to Die Omega Seamaster versus a used sub? I think you're referring to the 007, titanium Seamaster, which is, I like it. Okay. It's a beautiful watch. It's on mesh. It's kind of dark tinted titanium. The dial, it's cool. Okay. It's cool. I just don't like the price. I don't think I'm pretty sure it's like 10 grand. And I just don't feel like it's $10,000 cool, and I don't think that the branding, I know it's a special edition and you can't go buy it without the branding for less, but I don't think the branding is worth it. So I like it. The weird thing is I like it, but I just don't like it for that money. So I would absolutely rather spend 12 on a 40 millimeter ceramic Submariner than I would spend 10 on that Omega. Yeah, sorry to you 007 fans, but that's what I think. Would you prefer a platinum Daytona or a platinum DHS? What's a DHS? What's going on here? Oh my God, quick, somebody down the bottom, tell me what's a DHS. I'm going to have to look it up because I'm just having a mental blank right now. DHS. Rolex DHS. I'm going to be feeling stupid when I find it. What is it? See if it comes up. Nothing's really coming up, so I don't know what it is. Somebody, you'll have to tell me what you mean by that. I'm gonna skip to the bottom real quick and see if you've told me. What's a Rolex DHS? Datejust? I don't know. They don't make a platinum Datejust. Dual-handed suction. I think you made that up. Listen, a Platona is sort of the peak. But if you're talking about, let's say, the difference between a platinum Daytona or a platinum day-date, which one would I want? Oh man, Sophie's choice, but the day-date with the waffle blue dial. But yeah, absolutely Sophie's choice. Okay. GD has given me a super chat. Thank you so much money. Ours, $20. I don't really know what ours are as a currency, but thank you. Thus saith the pontiff, send money now. That's all he ever sends. I mean, says, don't get me wrong, guys. I don't hate Archie. He's just a bad habit that I need to quit. Sort of like, eating pork rinds. It tastes good, but you just know it's not good for you. So you guys should watch if you like him. I was not going to go on there and get abused tonight. I do him a favor to show up, and I do it more for me, I guess, because it kind of sort of fell back into my old habits, but I needed to not, and I knew I did. And when he was abusive tonight, I'm like, no, I think not. Not today, big boy, not today. Hi, Mark, love your show and always tune in. What are your thoughts on the Tutor? Well, we just went over this, Jay. I'm sorry that you missed it, but my answer was, I don't care for it. I much prefer the actual Pelagos that has a bracelet and a date. So that's the deal there. So there's a little bit of crosstalk. When will the gray market dealers come to reality? Price difference between private and gray are still substantial. So listen, you got to kind of understand how business works. If you sell a watch private sale, like if I sell a watch, let's say I'm not a YouTuber, I'm just a dude. I mean, the fact that I'm a YouTuber is a little bit to my advantage when selling because people know me. They know where to reach me. They know I have a reputation. Although actually, aren't there a couple of YouTubers who went down in flames with, like fake watch schemes and Ponzi schemes, and bad things can happen even if you're, a YouTuber. But by and large, here's the thing: private sale, people are going to pay you less because they don't know who you are, and a private sale dude is not going to stand behind the watch in a year if it turns out to be fake, defective, problematic, or not running within spec. But if you buy a watch from a gray market dealer, whether it be somebody like Federico or Nashville Watches or David SW or any of the trusted sources that when you buy a watch from these guys, Kenny Nguyen at Jewelers on Time, it's partially about the money, but it is also partially about the passion. And what I mean by that is, where they are. Federico sells you a watch that in 6 months shits the bed. He's going to help you, okay? Provided you didn't own or abuse it, meaning drop it and so forth, which they can tell when they open it up. You buy that same watch for, let's say it's a $20,000 Breguet, a complicated one, moon phase or something, and you bought it private party and it shits the bed. Well, you're out of luck. So me personally, I would rather buy that kind of a watch from a gray market dealer. I'd rather pay a little bit more, and I'd like somebody to stand behind that watch. So that's why there is a difference. I'm not here to tell you that all gray marketeers are good guys with white hats, because it's not true. But if you pick and choose amongst them, you will find those who are selling at market rate and standing behind the watch, and you can feel a lot better when you're buying from them, but also too when you're selling. I've sold a couple watches to some of these guys, and trust me, it's a great relief to send a watch off to a guy who within 24 hours is going to hit you with a wire, for $15,000 and pay you for your watch, and you don't even have to sweat it. So they have a function, and we should respect what that function is. Okay. Andrew wants to know what I think of ball, and I like balls, as some of you know. And I have 2 of them right now. Mark's got 2 balls. So the first one I have is a World Time, it's a ball World Time. And it's a cool watch, got tritium tubes with a rotating dive bezel. But talk about shitting the bed. It has done so twice in 3 years. It has had major overhauls, and now it's out of warranty. So I can tell you this. I would not buy a complicated watch from Ball. I would not. They use ETA movements onto which they piecemeal modules. And that makes them finicky. And although I've gotten good service from Ball, each time that my watch crapped itself, it's never going to stop. So I feel like that watch is kind of a brick right now. What you should stick with in Ball watch would be their divers, their 3-handers, or the watches that have a date, okay, where there are not modules built into those movements. So I think that's the only thing that I would really That's what I would say. There's one exception to the rule there, and that would be, I think their chronographs are fine because those are built on 7750 Valjoux, and there's no modules, just a straight up workhorse ETA movement. Ball is a good entry level watch. Which watch model? Well, the hydrocarbon or hydro engineer series for dive watches. That's what I have. Has a day and a date. I really like it. And tritium tubes, very cool. Or the ball NEDU, N-E-D-U. I forget what it stands for, but it's a diving chronograph watch with a 7750. Also cool. Then they make a bunch of three-handers. The Fireman series and stuff like that. You would be very safe there because those are workhorse movements. Sunset Savinelli says, what do you think if Glashütte CQ removed the polished center links? I have one. I've got the Panorama Date CQ. I didn't used to like polished center links. When I first got my first watch that had them was my Batman, but I've come to like them. If you're going to spend $10,000, $12,000 on a watch, it should have a little bit of bling to it, is what I think. And they're very easy to touch up. Yes, they get hairline scratches, but they're super easy to touch up with a Cape Cod cloth. So I don't want them to remove the polished center links, but if you own one and you're not concerned about resale value, then you can easily have your jeweler or you with a 3M scrubby put a matte finish on those polished center links, and you could refinish your own. That it would not be hard to do that. Personally, that Panorama, it's like a $12,000 watch. I wouldn't touch it. I would leave it factory. I need more water. Don't move. I'll be right back. Here I come, boys. Almost back. We're gonna be wrapping this up pretty soon. We've been here almost an hour, but let me bang my way through a few more comments. I think this is Ball we're talking about, new ice blue with flat tritium. That would be really nice, and they've done some really nice rainbow tritium tubes, flat rainbow color tritium tubes. I think that's fascinating. I really think it's very cool. So I do like me a Ball. Anyone have an OP36 or a 41? Well, this is the 41 right here. Jerry says he tried on a coral red OP36 briefly, underwhelming. I tried on an OP, this is the OP41 again, and I tried on the 36 myself recently. I was at an AD and they had one and I tried it on and oh, I know, my friend Jin, he bought it is what it is. Jin bought the Jin Tingler, Jin Vintigny. He bought the bright blue Sunray OP36, and I have that same watch in a 41. And when I tried his on, I also was underwhelmed by it. It just seemed too small for me. The configuration of Jin's got a big wrist, but the way it configures, it looks good on him. I don't think it looked good on me. So I think whether 36, 32, 40, 39, all these wrist sizes are going to vary very much according to not only the measurement of your wrist, but the dimension of the way that wrist is configured. I mean, like, guys, this is a 7¼ inch wrist. And it's not that it's fat, round, and chubby, but I have this big, broad, beautiful, flat wrist bone is what I mean. These are the wrists of a wrist model, I must say. That absolutely my best feature, these wrists. But because there's so much expanse, from here to here, I can take a wider watch, and a smaller watch tends to look lost on me. People who have big wrists, but they're really round, they might not have this much surface area, but I've got that big, beautiful bone. Eat your heart out, kids. All right, people. Well, I think it's time that we wrapped it up here. I want to ask you real quick before we go, throw a like on this video. It helps a lot. And I want to thank you for putting up with me and my little snit tonight. But there's nobody I would rather spend my evening with than you good people. So thanks for having joined me. Y'all take care. We'll do this again soon. Goldberg, peace out. Oh, and subscribe. Let's do it now. It's free.